Welcome to the Trailhead from UltraSignup, where big adventures begin. Trail running is so much more than just a sport. It's a community, a culture, a way of seeing the world. On this show, we're not dissecting splits or debating shoe specs. We're here to get to the heart of it all, the people, the places, and the stories that speak to the soul of the sport. Join me, Zoe Rome, and my co-host, Brendan Leonard, as we'll bring you conversations with the everyday athletes, local legends, quirky characters, and creative minds who make trail running what it is. Messy, joyful, gritty, and deeply human. Because it's not just about chasing finish lines. It's about the friendships forged on long climbs, the lessons learned in the pain cave, and the weird, wild moments that remind us why this sport is about so much more than the miles. This episode is brought to you by Element, and specifically their new lemonade iced tea flavor, which has been doing some quiet work on a couple of, let's say, low-stakes self-improvement projects of mine this year. Project 1, drink enough water like a person who has been told repeatedly this is something a human body needs. Project 2, stop having coffee at 4 p.m. and then feeling personally betrayed at 11 p.m. when I am still somehow shockingly awake. Lemonade iced tea is conveniently and possibly suspiciously a solution to both. It has 50 milligrams of caffeine from actual tea, which is less than a cup of coffee, plus L-theanine, which is a compound in tea that keeps your nervous system from filing a service complaint, and the same sodium, potassium, magnesium formula as regular Element. And it tastes like an Arnold Palmer, like somebody made it on a porch iced tea. As a Southerner, I feel this deeply. It's not the kind of beverage where you can taste the optimization and it goes down as smooth as a liquid TED Talk. Go to drinkelement.com/ultrasignup for a free sample pack with any order. That's drinkelement.com/ultrasignup. Brendan, what is your relationship with photography?
I have been paid to take photos myself a couple times, but not. I don't think I was like number one.
Like unjustifiably, or like you were plan C.
Yeah, I do okay. I've hung out with a bunch of photographers over the years and picked up just a little bit of knowledge from them, like to get decent, and like I think the best photography advice I've ever gotten was from my friend Ace, who said, I forget the exact quote, but it was like 95% of photos are taken from a height of 5'7". And what he's saying is that people don't move around with the camera, and this is, it doesn't matter if it's just an iPhone, but like to think of the angle, as opposed to just being like, this is where I am, so all I have to do is lift the camera up and push the button. It's like, no, why don't you move around a little bit? And so that was like extremely helpful. And then a few basic things, but I could not ever pretend to be decent. What would you say your relationship with it is?
Weirdly, I mean, actually just this year, I've sort of essentially, effectively, functionally discontinued using social media, which I think is a primary place where people are both acting as photographers and experiencing photography, because I just got really worn out on feeling any amount of pressure to supply imagery, particularly to like support my podcasting and journalistic career. And I just went on this trip to Italy, and I didn't take a single photo with I actually took one photo of a spaghetti that I ate, but I used primarily this old Polaroid camera that I have to only take these instant Polaroid photos. And it was actually really fun because, having the limitation of film forced me to be a little bit choosier about how many photos I took. And I think that those constraints are actually pretty helpful for creativity. And because it's kind of bad camera, you have to be really picky about the light and how you shoot things. And I've definitely produced a ton of bloopers or photos where everyone looks like a weird Victorian ghost child that's floating above the ground. And I actually really enjoyed having some method of recording that wasn't living in my pocket all the time and didn't feel like it was tied to some totally self-imposed made-up obligation to supply the world with an unending stream of whatever the hell Zoe Rome is experiencing on any given day.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting that I said photography and the first thing you started talking about was social media. I think that's how we all probably think nowadays, huh?
Yeah.
Huh.
And, Susan Sontag in her book on photography makes the argument that photographs shapes and defines a new relationship, or sort of changes how we experience the world. And instead of actually experiencing things, we just photograph it. We just try to flatten it and acquire it. And I definitely felt that happening in myself. And so I've weirdly felt that sort of like kneecapping my own ability to take photos has positively enhanced my experience of and understanding of the world. But I think a lot of that sort of goes back to my own maybe just like inelegance with the form itself.
Yeah. Okay, different question. How many good race photos do you think you have of yourself that you like?
I would say between 0 and 1. What about you?
I think there's probably maybe 3 total in like
Wow.
across the years.
Yeah.
And one of them is like I'm running the New York City Marathon with my friend Sid, and we both we saw the photographer, and I was like, let's go for it, and we just made these like ridiculous faces and like just nailed it. And it actually looks like we're having a great time, but it's like mile 21 or something, and we're just like, it was like just a second of us being thumbs up, big smiles, and then we just went back into and
Yeah.
then every time I do a race, I'm like, oh, the photos are in, I'll go check them out, and they all suck, and I'm like, man, that's
Oh,
not to the
suck.
fault of the photographer at all, it's just
No.
me. And then
Right. I
like,
think the common denominator is the Zoe, not the photo.
yeah, you get like a good one every 5-6 years, and then you
Yeah.
go with that for a while, and then so
Race photographers have an extremely hard job. We're about to talk to Anastasia Wilde, who's one of the more prolific race photographers, trail running photographers. She's done a lot of really cool work at 200-mile races. So my heart, goes out to these folks who are braving the elements, staying up all night just to get a photo that the, rest of us schmucks can throw up on our LinkedIn or send to our like family group chat for approval.
you know what? Anastasia took one of the photos I'm talking about, actually.
Well, let's get into it.
All right.
My name is Anastasia Wilde. I am an adventure photographer, but I mostly focus on ultra trail running. I shoot a lot of the 200 plus mile races in the US. And then I just love being outdoors and capturing really any of it, but trail running just has a special place in my heart for sure.
I imagine photography and trail running might be a little bit of a chicken egg situation, but what came first, the trail running before the photography, or photography leading to trail running?
Ooh, actually, running into photography, which I feel like since I've started photographing trail running, this is the least I've ran for myself personally. But I did a triathlon when I was maybe like a sophomore in college, and the thing that really stuck from that was the running. And then over the years, slowly I started doing some trail running, and really the only races at this point that I've tried has been the Rut 28K. I've yet to finish it, but now instead of photograph it, so that's kind of where that's left off.
Even better.
Mhm.
Anastasia, you live like 7 blocks from me, I think, or 8 blocks from
No.
me in Missoula. Anyway, can you talk about how you came to be living in Missoula?
Missoula? Oh, sure.
Yeah.
I went to high school in Eureka, Montana, so super small town. And my brother was living in Missoula at the time, going to university. And so when that decision came, I was like, oh, I'll also go to Missoula. And as soon as I moved here, he ended up moving to Bozeman for continuous education. But
Is that still is that a sore spot still, or?
yeah, I'm like, oh, what is this? I move all the way out here and then you move. I originally went to university for music education. That's kind of always been a passion. And then because I was adopted from Russia at the age of 11, I still retain that language. And so what better place to also get a piece of paper that says I can speak Russian? So I kind of picked that up a couple years into my degree. So, and then I took a year off between college and getting like a real job, and waited tables and kind of, for better or for worse, I picked up a camera, and I think I didn't really look back. I did end up teaching for one more year. I taught music at a Catholic school, and that was really fun. I love the middle schoolers. They're just they're so full of personalities. They're so like goofy and funky. Anyways, I really enjoyed that. But decided to, the age of like 25, I decided to pivot anyways. And then I went full time into photo school. And then I've just kind of been like doing it part time. And I didn't go full time until like maybe 3 years ago, I think.
Okay.
What was that moment that made photography, excuse the pun, click for you?
Yeah.
Like that moment where, sorry, I tried to think of another word and then I couldn't, and I panicked and I made a pun. But
it's fine.
Mike, is my punnery going to make you shudder?
When you said you just picked up a camera, when did that happen, and what was that? Was that like somebody loaned it to you, or like?
I went to Costco and they were selling like a kit D3300 for Nikon, so it's whatever, just like an entry level DSLR at the time. And my husband and I were like going out and hiking with our dog, and we were doing these things, and I kept being like, well, like look at like the REI catalog, right? We'd like get them in the mail, and I was like, we're like doing these kind of things, right? Like we go camping and we do these things. I could totally take photos of it. It wasn't anything that I had like, I maybe had like a little point and shoot in high school, and I thought that I was like doing something with some landscape photography, but I never I didn't know how to use a camera. I didn't know anything about it. I don't know. I just felt a calling, I guess.
Yeah.
And once I started taking those photos, and I think because it was coupled with like going outdoors and getting to see obviously like beautiful landscapes and like having these adventures, that all of it together just kind of swept me up.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe hits a little different than like commercial real estate photography.
Yeah.
I love that our journey begins at Costco. Like, that's amazing.
That's like quite the origin story.
Yeah. You're like, oh, yeah, but yeah, I really didn't have any cameras before that. I didn't have like any education. I just thought that it seemed fun. And then while I was teaching, this is kind of a funny story. I think I like to think that like, obviously the universe has its own thing going on, but there are like certain moments in time that, I don't know, I choose to pick that are like transformative in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So RMSP, Rocky Mountain School of Photography, they're sadly closed now, but at the time they were still doing weekend intensives. And so it was like all day Saturday, all day Sunday to have photography education. And then you went and did some shoots. They did some critiquing of photos. And at the end of that weekend, they had like a raffle, and they were just kind of putting some feelers out for their year-long program. They were like professional intensive.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up winning $500 gift certificate as they were like announcing this thing. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Like, I wonder if there's some that, in the grand scheme of things, $500 wasn't that much to cover the program, obviously.
When you're like looking for a sign from the universe, like triple digits of money is like, great, got it, clear, gotcha.
You're like, oh, okay, great, yeah. So then after that 1 year of teaching, I kind of tried to see if I could do like part-time teaching, part-time photography school, but it was like, as it's called, professional intensive, it was like 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. a lot of the time. So there was no teaching anymore. So I just kind of, I talked to my husband, and he was like, you seem really stoked on it, and like this could be something, so like just go for it, right? We don't have kids, we're not really tied down. So that's kind of where that began.
Yeah.
You've said your goal isn't just to document races and provide, the nice like watermarked image that we all know and need for our LinkedIn profiles, but to genuinely peel back a layer and use imagery to find the real emotions in each runner. How do you try to do that in your imagery? What does that like specifically look like in your work?
Yeah. So I think because like last year I shot 6 200+ mile races. And so it they're a lot. They're a lot of effort of like, just even getting there, being in Montana, there's like nothing really local. We have a couple of things here, but most of the like 200 plus distances happen a little bit further south. So I think just that distance kind of lends itself to that kind of imagery. I feel like people have prepared, for years for these races, for these feats. They have put family life on hold. They've put in so many sacrifices that this is kind of like the final step in that journey. And so between that and then also sleep deprivation, all these things that happen throughout these races, they really break people down, for better or for worse, right? And there's no pretenses about anything. And so as a photographer, and I take the approach of like being a fly on the wall for the most part, I just get to witness their these amazing feats of athleticism, and not only on the front end, because they do tend to move a lot quicker. They're kind of like on a schedule. The mid to backpack is like where I like to hang out. There's so many stories. People are going through so many amazing things. They will stop and chat with you on trail. Sometimes they're like, I haven't seen a person in the last 12 hours. And so they're just excited to see somebody in the middle of nowhere to like chat you up. And so I think that, especially over the years, I've been shooting that distance for 5 years now. You just know when to be quiet and just kind of let people tell their stories. And I don't know, it's really special out there.
It's like sort of like therapy a little bit at that point, huh? Where you're just like, yeah, man, I'm actually just here to shoot photos. I can't help your emotional state.
But I do feel like, I don't know, like tell me all of your, the weirdest inside information about people before like where they work or like, what they do on the like daily basis, but of like what they're struggling with or like what they've overcome, right? So you're like, oh, I didn't know that you were an accountant.
I was running in a 100-mile race with a guy, and we had been chatting for a bit, and he proceeded to like get pretty vulnerable with me about his strained relationship with his father and how he feels they might be able to reconnect through running, and his dad had recently taken it up, and we were about to like coast into the halfway aid station. I was like, by the way, what's your name? Because like I now know a ton of identifying details about your family, but I'm not sure I got your first name, bro.
No, it's just like, I don't know, it like whatever it is that is about this, I don't know, just maybe trail running in general, that people are just way more open, than like somebody you meet for the first time in like a busy place. So, yeah.
So when we see you out on the race course, if you're a runner and we come upon Anastasia and her camera, like we've come there by a way different means than you have. Could you kind of describe what it takes to get to like a specific spot in a specific race? Like how do you get there and how do you decide where to be?
Sure. So I think it depends. I'm going to maybe speak from a perspective of like being one of the main race photographers. So we're working with the race, but if it's more than one person on a team, typically we get together and we map out kind of like where we would need to drive, where we would need to hike into, where we would see the majority of the field. And so sometimes it's like between 6 and 8 miles, one direction to hike in. Sometimes it's, you can just park and like walk straight off of the main road. But yeah, most days we try to maximize like the most beautiful light. So first thing in the morning, and then of course first sunset at night. But we need imagery of everybody. So we're just out there all day. So a lot of the time, day 1, day 2, which is where we get most of the folks, we wake up, I don't know, sometimes as early as 2. You kind of try to pack up all your stuff. If you're going to be out on course for 12 plus hours, you need like liters of water, you need food, you need layers, you need just like all your gear, whatever you're going to use. Maybe you don't need flash for the morning, but you'll need it at night. So we're taking all of that into account, and then we hike out, whatever, 1 mile to 8 miles, and just kind of hang out for the day. I don't love sitting in one spot. I totally understand that sometimes there's like a perfect area that people are like, oh, this is like what the race is known for, is we get a photo in this spot. But I always try to like switch it up a little bit, even if it's not for the runners per se, but just for my sanity of having to photograph every single person. I don't want to be one of those photographers that just has their camera on their tripod just shooting away. A lot more meaningful to me than that. And so I try to kind of show that.
I love that,
And
because I feel like so often, I mean, especially with social media and everyone kind of feeling like their own photographer in a pocket, I feel like we keep seeing the same images over and over again. Like I always think of like that, like Horseshoe Bend, we're seeing that canyon with like a girl dangling her like Chaco clad feet over what is actually like a sacred indigenous site, sans context, and like of delicate arch over and over again, like these kind of like, I don't know, images that once you see them so many times, like you're told it's so special, but the repetition kind of like, I feel like dims the specialness on those spots.
Yeah.
You've also mentioned running alongside athletes in some of these races to get the shot. What does that look like, and what kind of physical commitment does that entail, and how does that influence the images you end up ultimately getting?
Yeah, I think it when I have had to, or when I've worked with just like a singular athlete instead of getting race coverage for everybody, it is like way more pressure, I feel like, because you have only one person that you're really there for, and it's a lot more like planning and timing. And, if they have a great day, maybe they're a lot faster than you expected them. Or if they're having a tough day, then you're like sitting around for a few hours. But I think at the end, I still just like, I want to capture their journey as it is, whether they're having a really tough time. I still think that those photos are worth it. If they're having a great day, obviously, everybody's like excited about it. And, but it is different. There's just so much more pressure, I feel like to get good shots of that person and whatever, like I think the one year that I went to canyons with Adam Peterman, his family was crewing him and he was like, oh yeah, I'm planning to be there for like 60 seconds. I was like, I'm sorry, you're going to be at an versus like the 200-mile races. Sometimes people are in aid station for like hours. So I was like, 60 seconds, you have to like, you're shooting them as they're running in, you're shooting up the aid station, and then you're kind of headed out. Yeah, it moves a lot quicker. It's definitely a different game for some of the top athletes for sure.
how did it become, like, how did 200s become sort of a niche for you? Like, is it because the race directors of those races talk to each other, or is it just like, hey, Anastasia's dialed on the logistics of these multiple day events versus something else? Let's get her because she knows how to do that. Why is that? Why has that become your thing, I guess?
It started with Destination Trail, and so since they had 5 years ago, they had just the 3 races. They preferred to just have the same team across all of them. So then
Okay.
immediately I was like part of 3 of them. And then the next year, Scott Rokas put out on his Instagram. I had met him at this point, but he put out on his Instagram looking for women that were photographing trail running. And he was asking for recommendations. And instead of recommending other people, I reached out and I was like, hey,
Yes.
I'll try a couple of these.
It me.
If you're looking for somebody, yeah, I just, I feel like in the beginning, I still kind of do it. I just reach out to people if I think the course looks cool, if I like what they're doing at the race. I'll reach out and ask if they have any availability for photographers, or if I can come and kind of get to know people and put myself out there. And so it kind of snowballed. So the Destination Trail had the 3, and then I did Cocodona. And then last year I also added Summit 200 because a friend of mine was shooting it. So then he was like, oh, we need another photographer. And I know like Anastasia's dialed in on those. And so I think it's just, I don't know, I've just kind of put myself into that distance. And I think because so many people do them across board, it's kind of like a reunion every single time because even like last year, I think there was 2 runners who had 700s that they were doing. So I kept seeing them at all these different races.
Wow.
It was pretty crazy. Yeah, it's super fun.
So you get to get a front row seat to athletes like Adam Peterman, as well as getting to experience for significant portions of time, the mid and back of the pack at these really, really long events. What have you learned about running from having that kind of unique vantage point on the sport?
Yeah, I think it overall just taught me that humans are so resilient, and that a lot of the times people's bodies are totally torn apart. They're like barely working, and somehow they still have the will to get up and get it done. And I think a lot of people said this to me, that it's mind, or like your mindset is the thing that will get you through a lot of these races. And so a lot of people are coming in with like really definite whys they're doing it. And I feel like if they don't have that like driving force, whether they're raising money for something, they're doing it for family, they're doing it, for themselves, to show themselves that they can do this thing. If they don't have that strong why, a lot of the time, then people don't finish. So if there's not like a driving force to what you're doing, I do feel like you probably hit a point sometimes when you're like, why am I doing this? Like, why am I putting my body through this? Like, I think we all have those questions sometimes. So, yeah. So I think just like really knowing your why, or knowing why you're doing something, or why you're out there, and like why you've been making these sacrifices to get ready for the race, is like what I see as like the most deciding factor of like whether somebody would finish a race like that.
Yeah. You've done a lot of brand work too for a lot of different brands like Patagonia, North Face, Yeti, et cetera, et cetera. Do you think people have an idea of how many times like those shots are posed? Or do you think they just think like, oh, she just caught that person
what
running
are
right
the
by
dirty behind the scenes secrets?
Yeah.
Like, are these people actually running uphill?
Yeah, for sure. I think some of it is like, if it's race photography, obviously like none of it's staged, just kind of like you're just capturing a
Well,
moment.
I know
would-
I will
Oh.
add a little pep in my step if I see a lens pointed my way.
But you don't ever, you're never just like, hey, can you do that one more time?
Yeah,
let's
Go back and do it one more time.
Hold on, my knee drive was weird. Can we try it again?
I have had to tell people if there was like, this happened to Broken Arrow specifically. I remember, I don't know if my memory card filled up or something happened, but I was like, please hold for a second. I just have to, maybe my battery died or something. I was like, I just have to like get this. So like freeze, give me like 20 seconds. I think just like communicating that too, of like, because I think they would prefer to have a photo than not have a photo at all. So if you're just like honest about it, instead of just like taking the photo and then them never getting it, you're like, ooh.
Right.
But yeah, I feel like a lot of the photos that go to brands are totally staged. I mean, it's a matter of like, you pick a spot, if it's like somewhere on Sentinel, right? And you're like, oh, can you run this back and forth a few times? And then of course, one more turns into 10 more. So it's good to like come in with like, we have an hour to do this, and let's get it done, So yeah, so I think a lot of it, because either I reach out to them or they reach out to me of like, hey, like, let's go out on whatever our local hills, right? I really love taking advantage of our balsam roots and all the wildflowers we get in Missoula. And so I always try to drag people out there to like capture that moment in time too.
Were there early mistakes you made earlier in your career that you remember that were like, wow, that may tank this?
Yes. And thank God that I work in a team of multiple people. So when I failed, somebody else stepped in. But I remember I had just gotten my new camera. So this was my second year shooting the 200 milers. I had just gotten my new camera and I thought I set it up the way that I need it to be. And then I go to shoot DFL, so the last person at Bigfoot, and I was very excited. I was like, I have the newest tech. I'm going to go and like what they do is, everybody raises their hand and the people run through the tunnel. So it's also like a super iconic shot for those folks. So there's a videographer in front of me. And so we have this whole plan, right? We're like, okay, you're going to come about halfway and then you're going to dip out. And then I'm going to photograph them all the way to the finish across the arch. And I take a couple of photos of like people standing around cheering as they come around the track. And then they cross the finish line. I thought I like took all these photos, and then we have to like turn them over really quick so they can post to Instagram about them. And I go to look at my photos, and the last photo I actually took was of the people cheering. And then I have nothing else. So my memory card had filled up, and my camera didn't say that it was full. It just continued to simulate like it was taking photos.
Oh man.
Because it was mirrorless camera and doesn't make any sound anyway. So I got to the finish, and then as soon as I realized that, I like popped the memory card out, put a new one in, kept photographing because they were still celebrating the finish. Because it was the last person, obviously the videographer got him going through the first half of the tunnel, and then there was 2 other photographers at the finish. So we had enough photos to like get the gist of the finish, and then had to grab a still off of the video footage. And everything was okay, but that was definitely a moment that I will never forget. And that, just like I lost all of my gumption, and I was like, there's no way that I just missed this whole finish. But we had enough photos, but it was definitely scary.
Like I feel like every creator has accidentally had to learn about asset management the extremely hard way at one time or another.
Oof, yeah, that was a bad one.
Are there any photos in your years doing this, any photos that have stories behind them that stand out particularly strongly to you that you feel like are particularly either representative of what you try to do or that just, I don't know, have stuck with you?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I feel like maybe it's because I just was looking at some of these photos, but I have a photo of a person who's been running these. He started running these 200s the same time that we started photographing them. So last year he was starting to get his 5-year buckles for a lot of these races. And I had my own little bit of a traumatic journey going up to a sunrise spot on top of a mountain. And when I got there, like the sun was just rising. It was really beautiful. And there was only one person sitting there. And it was this person that, we've known for 5 years. And I think he was just sitting up there taking it all in. And because of our relationship and because I've been around for, like we've been around each other for the last 5 years, I think he just broke down watching the sunrise. It was like the last high point of one of these races. He was going to get his 5-year buckle, which is like super special. And I think he was thinking about maybe stepping away from these races a little bit because his kids were growing up and he wanted to spend more time with them. So I have a photo of him crying and this like beautiful light, with like Mount Rainier in the background. It's like, it was such a special moment that he felt comfortable, like crying, like just being authentic and kind of continuing on with his, journey. Even if I was there, I just kind of try to stay away and kind of capture the moment for him. So that one definitely sticks out in my mind as like it's just a special.
Yeah, you get to be witness to a lot of really intense and wonderful human moments out there.
So like let's say like the first place you're going to shoot for a particular 200-mile race, what's in like, and you have to hike in and you're not able to access a car, what's in your backpack? And how much does it weigh?
Oh gosh. What's in my backpack? Typically I carry, one of my cameras has like a 24-70 on it. And one either has a 70-200 or a 135, something a little bit, more zoomed in so I can get variety and like switch a little bit quickly. Because the other thing too is that we will only ever see the entirety of the field on day 1 and 2. And then day 3, people start finishing and people are 100 miles back. So that's that's the time. So we usually try to photograph people when they're really far away. And then when they get closer with a different lens, just so they get a couple of different shots of themselves. So I'll have those 2. I'll have at least 3 batteries for each camera, just in case. I will have, I'm like looking at my backpack. Water, I have husband makes my backpacks. And so I have a backpack with water pockets on the front for my big camera bag. And then I'll probably have at least 2 more liters of water, food, lamp, screen, spray, sticks, sun glove, because I always burn the tops of my hands for whatever reason. And then just like, I don't know, even just like first aid kit stuff or layers, depending on whether it's raining or it's sunny. I feel like an umbrella can come in handy. Usually earphones, because sometimes between runners there's time. So I'll listen to a book, or mostly book
Yeah.
there. Which also, it kind of depends. Sometimes I hike out and I just listen to ambient sound because it's also really lovely. And other times I put a book in, so it makes the time go by a little bit faster. um, but I think that's about it. I think when I'm out there like really long days and I need like 5 liters of water, the bag can probably be like upwards of like 30 plus pounds. But I bet like
Yeah.
20, 25 is like typical.
No tripod and no camp chair or anything.
No. Last year, I hiked out to the spot. I knew it was going to be really windy at Tahoe, and it's super exposed. So I did bring my onesie, those like silk bags. People
yeah.
kind of make fun of me for wearing it all the time, but it's like, it's just a down onesie. Like, who wouldn't want to wear that and be comfortable? So,
I always think
Wish I
of
was
them as
wearing
like,
one right now.
yeah, it's like a sort of baggy 8,000 meter suit that you would wear to climb Everest, but it's, it's fine. Yeah.
Just using it to chill in a field.
yeah,
I think puffy
it's like
pants are
perfect.
extremely underrated.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But especially at the finish lines, like the overnight shifts, it's nice because you can sit in a chair. Because if you have a blanket and you have to take it off and move away from the fire, it gets really cold. But if you're already warm, then you don't even have to do anything.
Yeah. You need like
No.
a high performance alpine snuggie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've also
Yeah.
run a lot of the races that you've photographed. How does either your photography maybe influence how you run these? Does it feel like you get to scout the course ahead of time? Or do you feel like you bring some of the things you've learned photographing courses into your personal running and racing?
Yeah. I think I'm like such a leisurely person in general. So I don't have a competitive bone in my body. So the few times that I have tried to do the 28K, I end up timing out. I'm just having a great time. I'm talking to people. I'm not really paying attention to the time until I've missed the cutoff. So for better or for worse, I feel like I just like chat people up, and I kind of want to do the same thing that I do when I'm taking photos. So I'm not paying attention to any of those bits, unfortunately. So mostly it's like power hiking.
A great
There's another-
lesson.
yeah.
So how much afterwards, when you get done, say you're just taking photos just for the photos of the people running, that they're going to then hopefully download or whatever. And how much time you're not just like dumping everything onto a hard drive and then uploading it, right? You're like, are you going through okay. How long does that process usually take? Is that like a couple full days?
Yeah, for sure. I have gotten a lot faster over the years. I feel like when I first started, it was taking me much longer to do it. Like a typical 200, I would take upwards of like 10,000 photos probably over the 6 days. And then we shoot raw for those races. So then we have to edit all of them. I guess you could shoot raw in JPEG, but we just shoot raw. And then everything has to get input into Lightroom, whatever, that takes time, right? Because it's 10,000 photos. And then it takes usually at least a day to cull everything, because we want to give a variety of images, but at the same time, we don't want to just give you one option. And so typically like a gallery from day 1 or day 2 would be like 1,000 to 800 photos. And then after that, it drops off significantly because we just can't see as many people in the same day.
Mm-hmm.
And then it picks back up again when you have finish line shifts and it's busy, because then you shoot a lot more images. So at least a day to cull, sometimes a day and a half. And a day would be like 8 to 10 hours behind a laptop. And then usually two full days to edit. And that could range from like 12 to 16 hours. And then you have to upload them. So that takes a while. And then, yeah. So we typically try to do it within a week. So like if a race ends on a Tuesday, Wednesday is usually a travel day back home. And then, so we have Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday to Wednesday is when we try to make the photos go live. So there's not sometimes I like try to spread it out and I'm like, okay, well, I'll do a little bit this day, a little bit this day. What it usually ends up happening is Sunday night comes and I realize that I'm going to be in trouble if I don't start editing. And then it's a nonstop until photos go live on Wednesday. But they get done. It's just
Sounds
so nice.
like as hard as running 200 miles. 10 hours behind a laptop is my personal hell.
Yeah.
Do you procrastinate it because it's your favorite thing in the world to edit photos? Is that why? Or is it
Leave the best for last?
Yeah.
I'm just savoring
some
it.
of it is just like, just want to start feeling a little bit human before I dive into all this work. You know, we're not sleeping a ton. And then the driving day is at least 12 to 16 hours. And then, usually I'm like, okay, maybe if I take a day to like unpack my cooler so the stuff doesn't just like grow in there, and like maybe do laundry, kind of like become a little bit more human before I dive into some of those things. But sometimes I'm like ready to go, I get it done, and then, you know, you have a few days to kind of hang out before everything goes live. Just depends on where I am in the season.
So if I'm running by you in one of these races and you go like, let's say you get like 12 just quick captures as I'm going past, are you actually going through and being like, oh my God, he would not want that one. That looks terrible. Are you deleting those? Like,
this makes me so anxious because based on the race photos that have found me, I would shudder to see what gets called.
Oh, I've had some awful, they're amazing. Yeah. Or are you just kind of like, I'm just going to adjust like exposure, you know, like a few things in Lightroom and like just let people choose.
I try to pick the best ones because also I don't think as a runner I've ever gotten a photo where I thought I looked pretty cool. And so
like one ever. Yeah.
It's a common thing. Apparently.
No, I'm like, oh, what is that about? And so I try to pick like where they have a good stride. Maybe like over the years, I've learned the like light heckling and just like getting people to maybe look up or smile. I think they'll resonate with their photo a little bit more because they're looking up versus if they're just looking down, they don't even know you're there. And so, things get called out. I never delete anything. So if you were ever interested,
so you have blackmail on the majority of the trail community is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, there's a lot of photos, but I know that a lot of people do. They just pick their favorites and that's all they input into their catalogs and then work off of that. Everything gets uploaded. The only thing that get deleted is like one time I left my camera in my backpack as I was hiking out and it was on the whole time. So there was just like hundreds of black frames. That kind of stuff I'll delete.
Yeah. I was in a race one time. I will not say where, but I don't know. It was like not a big deal, but I was kind of going, they just said, here's all the photos that are on this website. You can just scroll through and find yourself. And I was specifically looking because I ran it with my wife and I was like, let's find these, you know, and there was like one photo here, one photo there of us and whatever. But there was a specific spot in the race course where I was like, there's Hillary and me. And then there was like this woman running through and this person who I think it was a guy, I'm sure it was a guy, had like this whole sequence of photos of this woman. Like there was like 11 of them in a row, like coming towards him and then running the other way. And I was like, okay, creep.
We can all see this, right?
Like maybe. Yeah, right. Everybody else got one. And this woman, there's like 11 or 12 photos of her going by. I was like, boy,
I recently did this race in Italy, and a lot of the aid stations are in these cute little like small vineyards. And at one of the earlier aid stations in the day, I was like waiting in line to fill up my water, and I chatted up like one of the farm like proprietors of this tenuta, and because I speak Italian, he asked me to pose with his he had like a dried ham hock in his doorway, and he's like, I need a picture of an American with my dried ham. So now I'm like, there's this like guy who like for personal use has a photo of me with his giant ham, and I don't know why or where.
Ham model. That's your
ham model.
Ham model
on your resume.
It's a valuable service. This is why we're just glad that people of integrity like you do this, Anastasia.
I know. And sometimes it's like, I think I'm starting to get a little bit better at it. But if I see somebody going down, like if they're falling, my first instinct is not to take the photo. It's like, oh my gosh, I want to like try to catch you. Or like if people are like throwing up or any of those moments, I used to be like, oh, I just don't know if people want that. And I've had so many people that are like, if you have a photo of me falling, I totally buy that. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, or, they were like, oh, I was throwing up. Did you see me? Did you get any photos? It's funny the things that people want captured. Cause I mean, it's part of their journey, right? If they're like sick or whatever. So I do feel like over the years, I've gotten a little bit more comfortable taking some photos of that kind of stuff. But I feel like you always have to like kind of read the room a little bit of like what people would be okay with.
Yeah. So the trail running and running industry general, I think sometimes can have a somewhat fraught relationship with creators and specifically compensating creators for their labor. I'm curious what your experience has been with that and if you've seen any shifts over the course of your career, like in terms of like willingness to pay or just conversations around how this creative work is valued.
Yeah, I do feel like when I first got into the trail world, it was still a little bit like unknown, but there wasn't a ton of media yet, the 200 specifically. And I had never even heard of it. And I was like kind of in the space before I started shooting them, but I didn't even know that people would want to run those kind of distances. Versus now, look at Cocodona, right? It's like people can watch the live stream for like 24 hours a day for like 6 days. And there are people that watch it. And so I think people I don't know, it's just like people are interested in it more, or maybe more people just know about it too. So it's kind of cool that there is more visibility around it. As far as getting paid, I feel like I think for a long time people were like, oh, we just don't know about usage. We just didn't know, like our athlete gave it to us, And so unfortunately, as like the creators of the images, we kind of have to do a little bit of like, oh, like you use this, I didn't get paid for it. How did you even get this? How is this like in your archive?
Why do you have this picture of me with your ham hock on your desktop?
What are you going to do with it?
What are you going to do with that?
And so, and then I feel like it kind of got better for a few years. People were like reaching out, or maybe there were some budgets, and I feel like things are like tightening up a little bit again, understandably, right, with everything happening. And so, I think that in AI, obviously, so there is some people that would prefer to spend it other places and not maybe give it to the, photographers, videographers, like creative.
Do you think AI could make a flattering race photo of me? Like, can Nano Banana finally bridge the gap between me and looking good while running? Have we gotten that far?
Yeah, I don't think so. I was chatting with when I was still at Rocky Mountain School of Photography of like who's safe from all this AI stuff, and like for the time being, because events are like once in a lifetime, right, for some people, or because they still need imagery of like maybe it rained that year where it never rains, or this special person ran it that is never going to do it again. You still want imagery of that versus like if you're doing more commercial shoots of like a specific shoe, like they could do renderings and like kind of create stuff around that. But when it's based around real life humans, I feel like we still have a little bit of a leg up there, right? People were saying like, oh, maybe they'll just like hook up some GoPros and it'll be like, kind of like a game cam or something of like, it'll just try to capture photos when nobody's there. It just takes away that personal touch. That's like what makes all these races so special, is that you could see somebody in the middle of nowhere and like have that conversation, have that human connection with the photographer, videographer, whoever it may be. So that's my outlook on it, I think. But also, I don't know. I hope that it doesn't become all just like AI soulless.
Yeah,
like
it feels like a real trip at the finish line moment to go and try to have like this profound embodied human experience, and then be like, "Hey, ChatGPT, can you make it look like I ran Cocodona?" Like, kind of feels like the people who use like AI for their wedding vows, where it's like, really, like you got all the way to the altar, sir. You might as well get this one across the finish line.
Yeah,
like to marry an LLM or to marry a human.
Marry a human, but have an LLM help with the writing of your vows.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting.
Really personal, really personal.
Really personal.
Anastasia, we talked a little bit about like the pressure to catch the moment or to like capture the actual moment something happens. Like after having done this for a few years and like knowing there are other options out there, do you think like wedding photography would be tougher or easier than what
Ooh.
you're doing right now?
For me personally, tougher.
Okay.
I shot one wedding when I was like kind of like figuring out where I wanted my photography to go, and it was fine. They were just really young.
Man.
And it was a little bit more difficult to kind of communicate and like have plans and, all these like things. I love, I love going to weddings. I just don't know that I'm the person to help you pick a dress. I'm sorry, but I don't really care. And I just know that there are people out there who do. They really do. They like
I think
want to
that's the
know, but
biggest thing. Yeah.
I know. So I have done a couple of weddings here and there, but mostly for like friends. That is special to me. But I think, and maybe that, people do that wedding photography and they become friends through the process. I'm just like a little bit of a tougher person to get to know. So I just don't know that I just don't know that that's what I'm best suited for. I'd rather sleep in dirt and get no sleep and watch somebody puke in the bushes than, which I guess maybe it's like similar
It's like
vibes.
you were at my wedding.
Maybe it's just a certain type of wedding you're
Yeah.
looking for.
That's right. You get a little rowdy for
Different
sure.
niche.
Yeah.
What advice would you give a young photographer who is curious about doing what you do?
Yeah. I just went to like Patagonia did this link up in Bishop, which was really fun, but they had a bunch of their photographers and like some of their photo editor team there just like critiquing. And I think it was really fun to there was a bunch of new folks that are getting into it. And one of those, I'm going to say kiddo, everybody's a kiddo to me, I feel like, but he was a little, he's in his 20s. He's a little bit younger, but he's just finding photography and, he loves climbing. And so he's really going to try to go for it. And the advice that another photographer gave him was just like to cherish this time. And I had never thought about it that way, but I feel like that's like the best piece of advice you could give somebody who's like getting started in photography in general, or really anything, that like when you first find that passion and you get so excited about it that you like, you can't sleep, or you're excited to wake up and, get out there for sunrise or whatever, right? Like when you're on fire about it that way, it's such a special time, because I feel like, not that I'm not that excited about it, but now I'm like, well, I have to pay my bills and I have to like, you have to start making those considerations, or like, I haven't been home in the last 4 weeks. Like it would be really nice, right? You like, once you get into it and you start working in the industry, it's like, you're excited, but that first excitement of when you first get into it is like unmatched. And so I think it's so special to be in that time frame. And yeah, just shoot nonstop. Shoot whatever you like. Anything that interests you. That would be my biggest piece of advice, I think.
Yeah. How many vertical photos do you take percentage-wise versus horizontal?
Almost, well, that's a lie. I think it depends. If I'm like in the most beautiful landscape, I'm gonna take it horizontal for sure. Vertical, I mostly do for like closer ups, like portraits, or if it's like on the first day of Cocodona, I shoot a Crown Canyon lot, and so you want some like place photos, but at the same time, you're just at an aid station that there's a ton of people, and it doesn't have that much character. So I feel like I get a little bit vertical and closer for that stuff.
Okay.
But I think I still shoot mostly horizontal.
Yeah. It's interesting to have seen, like I handed a camera or a phone to somebody when my family was hiking, like 3 generations of us the other day, and they like turned it and shot a vertical photo of us in the scenery. And I was like, I think that's just because like it's so much easier with a phone. Like you don't have to turn it. But I think it's like turned us all into vertical photographers in a way. I'm like,
There's life in portrait mode.
I do if somebody asked me to take their photos, like we were on a trail the other day and I took somebody's photo, I took it this way with their phone, but then asked if they wanted a vertical, because I was like, well, what if they want to set it as like their back screen or whatever, right? Like sometimes there's not enough real estate to crop in. So he didn't want that. But I did ask because I feel like for the most part, that's what people are taking the photos for, is like to put as their background on their phone. So
Do a couple diagonal shots too. Like, just do one that's just a selfie with them in it. That's good.
I love a diagonal. How has social media changed your job or not, right? Like, I imagine a lot of folks want these images for their social media in some capacity, races even. Like, has that shifted your approach in any tangible way?
no, I don't think so. I don't think about where the photos are going to end up. I just hope to capture people that they look good, that they have some memories to take away beyond what they're able to take with their phone. Because I feel like a lot of the time people finish those races and they're like, "Oh, I didn't remember that. I didn't even remember seeing you. So I always try to get additional stuff because of course they're going to take photos with their phone, as they should. And a lot of the times we can't be everywhere to get every like stage of their journey. And so I think whatever I can do to help them even bring those photos to their family, to be like, hey, like, look at what I did. Isn't this cool? Like I was in this landscape and I was here and I did this. And here's like my trail nap that I took. I think it's some of those adventures are like hard to explain to people. So I hope that I help them talk to their family about it.
How to talk to your parents about starting ultra running.
My God.
But I feel like I have an interesting relationship with social media. I want to see what other people are doing. I don't think that anything I'm doing is interesting enough, so I almost never post. I feel like I have like obligatory ones where I just like kind of let people know I'm still alive and still working.
It's like proof of life photos, like you with like the day's New York Times, still here.
Like, oh, I'm at this spot now, right? And oh, last week I was there, but now I'm here because I think a lot of people in my life don't really understand what it is that I'm doing. And so all they see is that like, oh, you're traveling all the time. You're getting to do all these cool things. And it is, and it's really cool, but it's also a lot of work. I spent an entire month out of the 7 months driving last year. And I put on like 25,000 miles. We live out of our cars when we do these things. Like, it is super awesome, but also, it comes with its challenges.
Yeah. I think a common thing people will say when they go on vacation somewhere and they come back and they're like, well, photos can't do it justice. Or photos can't really capture it. I always think somebody's could. Somebody's photos could. How do you feel about that saying?
That's interesting. I feel like when I go on vacation, I struggle between, do I want to be a photographer for this or do I want to enjoy it? I feel like some photos could do it justice for sure. But I also think that you taking a photo to capture for yourself, like unless you're doing it for somebody else, like you're the only one who has to remember it, right? So if you're looking at it and you're like, oh, it looked better or something, you're like, well, that's okay. You can say that and still show the photo, right? That like it was beautiful and it was even more beautiful, right? But like you can still share, what you thought was special. Because I think that is one of the things that I love about, I don't know, maybe just ultra running in general or just trail running, is that people are very willing and happy to share what they're really passionate about, which also helps me, be more stoked to get photos.
What's one super easy tip for a person who's never going to buy a DSLR or a mirrorless camera? They're just going to shoot photos with their phone, but they would like to do better. What's like one thing you would tell people?
Ooh, I feel like if you think about maybe your composition, it's like easy enough to, and I think some phones maybe have like grids, if you're talking like your thirds, that's kind of like where your eye lands, or if there's any kind of movement through your picture, or I think, just being like, you don't always want to put your subject dead center. Like sometimes it works, but I feel like it creates, if anything, almost more tension. But the rule of thirds, and if you have those grids, typically you want to have something on on the first third or the back third, or there's like PowerPoints is what they're called. So yeah, I think just like thinking composition about something and light. Like I feel like if it's like really beautiful light, it doesn't matter where you take a photo, it's going to look like $1,000. million bucks. I don't know.
I'll take
So yeah,
1,000.
like, and it doesn't always have to just be like first thing in the morning and first, or like, right like at sunset. I feel like sometimes the harsh light with like the shadows it creates or the textures like also be really interesting. So yeah, light is amazing.
Primary medium for folks
Yeah.
in your industry.
That's great.
Well, those are all the questions that I had, Brendan. Do you have anything else you want to shake her down for any more hot photo tips?
No, I'm great. I think we should let Anastasia go because we are like 6 minutes over now due to our due to whoever the nameless person was who like
Dave Mackey, but that's okay. And then also Matt Carpenter. So pretty heavy.
Wow.
I know.
Nice.
Yeah. If there's anyone to get kicked out of a fake meeting room for, that's them.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are.
Yeah, Brendan needs you to have won Leadville more than once to matter.
Yeah,
so that's the takeaway.
Just be considerate.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Anastasia. This was so cool. Where can folks check out your work?
Well, like I mentioned, I'm not on Instagram very often. Well, me as a person, I am on Instagram, but that's probably where I share the most.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us on the Trailhead.
Yay, thank you.
Thanks, Anastasia.
Some races earn their reputation through marketing. This one earned it with 44,000 feet of climbing. The Muertos 200 is widely considered one of the toughest 200 milers in the U.S. Relentless technical terrain, quad-crushing descents, and a 96-hour cutoff. The course loops all of Lake Paris in California, 20 miles and 4,500 feet of gain per lap, starting Wednesday, October 28th at 6:30 p.m. So you're headed into your first night on the trail before your crew has even settled in. All of it anchors Machete Madness's 4th annual Dia de los Muertos celebration, where honoring the dead looks like staying up all night and having fun on the trails with some of the friendliest volunteers and event directors in the sport. If you feel like you may not have a 200 miler in you, and fair, same, there's also a 100, a 50 miler on a punchy 10-mile loop, a 10-miler, and a 20-mile ruck division. So there's something for everyone, no matter what type of athlete you are. Every registration includes free family camping at Lake Paris. That is a sweet deal for the whole week. You get free professional photos, no pacer fees, and cash prizes for the 100 and 200-mile podiums. Though, obviously, all distances are amazing and valuable. But as the race directors put it on their website, the more you F around, the more you're gonna find out. Registration closes Friday, October 16th. Sign up now at ultrasignup.com and use the link in our show notes. Thanks for joining us on the Trailhead. If you love this episode, leave us a review. Share it with your trail crew and make sure to subscribe so you never miss an adventure. Give us a follow on Instagram at TrailheadPod. And you can reach us anytime at trailhead@ultrasignup.com. We'd love to hear your stories, questions, guest ideas, or just to say hi. And don't forget to check out all of the shows in the Ultra Podcast Network. We're building something special, and it's just for you. We'll see you every other week, right here on the Trailhead.